So again, welcome back to me, welcome back to Thailand. Tribuluta here from Thailand. I hope you're doing well. It's Parahasabodi here in Thailand, which is Thursday, and it's our holiday. It's King Kuala Lumpur Day, so I'm in my little habitat here, for instance, away from where I normally like to go, but because again, for instance, noise. I'm not saying there's any noise here, but there's been using the zoom 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 zoom. Thai people are quite noisy, to say the least, and when they play music, they have two volumes. It's like loud and very loud. And when they talk loud, and motorbikes loud, etc. So for instance, it's kind of but it is what it is. I'm in a Thai area. This is what I have to accept. So I've got to just kind of like say and put up with it. Unfortunately, but it does come off on the video. So for instance, I'm trying to do here. So, but I've just got to say, have peace, Buddha, peace. Anyway, so I hope you're doing well. So, for instance, so we're talking about, for instance, the day after the day after the game, the Villarreal game, state of play at Manchester City at the moment, what we've learned from Villarreal, and so, for instance, in the way the team's progressing. Because again, for instance, listening to the guys at the moment, I was listening to LB this morning. I was listening to him. He had a chat with his Irish friend and City Ramble, and they had a chat. That was interesting to hear the positiveness of the football club, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be, because again, what I'm about to read out, etc., is the fact that there's a lot of positivity about the football club, regardless of the fact that, for instance, the negativity of the mainstream media, for instance, the mainstream biased media, for instance, southern-based biased media, is just ridiculous. The fact that, for instance, in Manchester City are one injury away from catastrophe. So that was done by Paul Merson on the day. If Man City lose, that's it. I just saw for instance, on a podcast today, another Arsenal fan, etc., saying Man City are done if we lose Erling Haaland. That's it. It's all over. I think, for instance, I think it's not. I think I just kind of like got to the fact that I feel the fact that it is a certain degree of fear. So, for instance, when you have an enemy, and when you know that, for instance, and that enemy, as for instance, like Man City have been to a lot of teams, it's been that, oh, Man City are here, man. The mere fact that if you can find something, to discredit that enemy, to make that feel, to make the loss of something, to say, oh well, it is not. I am. It is. We're not. For instance, if say, for instance, you make you feel better. You want to talk bad about the enemy because it makes you feel better. The 115 came to the national. If that was Burnley or any other team, etc., for instance, the 115, etc., it wouldn't get half as much scope as it is, because it's Manchester City, and it is because Man City have come along, won the Premier League after Premier League, treble, whatever, quadruple, you name it. For instance, we've won it. And it's like, oh, how the hell do we stop these people, for instance? And then when the 115 came along, it was like, yes! Man City are getting, because they want Man City out of the picture. The PSR, they want them out of the picture. We'll stop the funding, we'll stop the whatever. But and now, for instance, now that what they're talking about now is the fact that, for instance, they're saying, oh, they're not scored because they're listening to what Pep's saying, and but what Pep's not. But again, they're not listening to what Pep's saying, because even though Pep wants a contribution from the rest of the team, and as a Man City fans, we know that we are building, getting better, building, better play. And the players are getting better, to which I'm going to read out in a moment, of the things we've learned from the Villarreal game, plus the Everton game, etc., in the previous, and how the squad is getting better and better, bit by bit. But again, like Rico Lewis was saying, we want more. The players want more. And from each other, and this is important that the players want more. and for instance, for it, but it doesn't mean to say that, for instance, because then it gets translated into the mainstream media, southern-based media. The Arsenal fans, the Liverpool fans, the United fans, they want to, Pep's complaining the fact that the other players are not contributing as much as Haaland. Haaland is on another planet. Erling Haaland's on another planet at the moment. The mere fact, if Man City lost Erling Haaland to injury, would it affect us? Possibly, but the fix is, we played with a false nine before. There's still players who can score goals. I still believe, for instance, where Tiana Rangers is just one part of, one bit away from him being back, to scoring goals. I can see Phil Foden getting back to his scoring goals, getting goals. I can see the fact that you can see Savinho and Doku getting that close to scoring goals as well. So I do believe I can see the fact that the other teams are improving, the better players are getting back to normal. For instance, we've got Ryan Cherky coming in. Can he score goals? Yes. So we've lost Erling Haaland. It wouldn't be the end of the world. But if you're looking at the mainstream media, for instance, southern-based mainstream biased media, it is. We are one injury away from being done and being that's it. We're a one-man team. So, for instance, and it's just absolute garbage. It really is. So let me just oh come on, stop messing around. Oi, internet. I love the internet. I'm gonna say, for instance, but my Christ, sometimes it can have a mind of its own. And I get everything prepared for this, etc. And then it just jumps out at the moment I pick up. Anyway, so this says, right, things we've learned from the not only the Villarreal game, the Everton game, the Brentford game, confidence is coming back. It's no question Man City had a poor start to the season, to their standards. Again, Man City's standards were so high, and then we dropped last season, but we still finished third, etc. We still got to an FA Cup final, still won the Charity Shield, we still did more than the Arsenal. Mere fact that they finished above us, only points above us, and they had a decent season. But the thing is that our standards were so high, we're up here, we're stratosphere. But the fact is that we're getting up there. Standards, and not just the way of a lack of major silverware, but in the way the players played on the pitch. But the majority of the passes were often sloppy, the build-up was slow, but this season something has changed for the better. We're used to seeing the Blues getting knocked off the ball about the purpose and pace, which is exactly what we're now seeing. The chemistry of the team is looking much better already, and I've seen a real treat to see with the link-up play with the players, and City are looking like they're oozing confidence. When you think of Man City's most successful teams under Pep Guardiola, the Centurions, domestic quadruple winners, the treble winners, players play with a purpose and they knew their roles. Very early in the season, it seemed that City have their fire back, and early Haaland certainly does. He's leading the way early, etc. And I can feel that, and Bernardo Silva's leading the way, and the rest of it's following. And the strength of the back by Donnarumma coming in, etc., who's made us stronger at the back. The mere fact that the players are staying fitter, for instance, we're not having to bring players in who, for instance, who are unfit, who've got knocks. We can keep them, we can bring them on, stick them on the bench, and then bring them on, etc. So we've got strength in depth. Rico Lewis said during, here we go, sorry, no good noise here. During the post-match assessment, City have got their confidence back, and that is very, very true. Haaland's a force of nature. Another goal for Haaland, equaling Cristiano Ronaldo's best record haul of scoring 12 consecutive appearances for club and country. Erling Haaland just doesn't stop and looks better than ever. His confidence, his mental attitude, his physical, again, a lot of it's mental and physical. It really is. I'm a full believer of mental and physical attitude. Rico Lewis and Erling Haaland have been given a lot this season, etc. But the mere fact that the link-up play, what Rico Lewis said, but he was saying about when Rico Lewis was in the team, but Rico Lewis had a good game. Nunes is playing a good game. He's now, for instance, everybody's always one bozo moment from disaster. Well, maybe he is, but also a lot of it, the matter of fact that I get and see Rico Lewis actually I feel like he's getting better by playing, and I think he knows his place now, and so he's another person, for instance, who's improving in himself, and he's had 2 very, very good games back to back. Before, with last season, we used to see Man City dominate possession, shots, and almost anything in a match. But we also felt we didn't do anything. Really, we had more than one shot at. But the Man City had a more forceful with the door. We've not only been dominant on the pitch and more dominant in the way we're playing, but we're also very dominant in our way we're playing. Gets well, and we're more forceful in a way. So there's many reasons to be cheerful at the moment with City. There really is. So, for instance, when I listen to the mainstream media and their garbage, etc., what they're saying, it really, really does. It just absolutely irritates the hell out of me. For instance, when I listen to how they're playing and talking about Manchester City. So for instance, so I think we've got very good reasons to be cheerful, and very good reasons to go into the Aston Villa game, knowing that, for instance, they've got, what's it called, that they started off badly. For instance, they won the last 3 games. They go away to I'm not sure who they're playing this team tonight. Let me just find out who Aston Villa are playing and where they are, because. And I'm going to read something funny in a minute. What's it called? But what I saw, but it just shows us. Sorry, nature, Thailand, flies, ants. Just like so you spend half the time doing this and ants. I had a bit of chocolate on here yesterday, for instance, and what's it called? And I didn't get rid of it. I had a bit of a chocolate bar, for instance, and within an hour there was ants everywhere. So yeah, so let's have a look in who Aston Villa are playing. Was it conference region? No, was it Aston playing against Go Ahead. D also always sounds Dutch, so yeah, I presume it's in Dutch. But I've never heard of Go Ahead before in my life. So, but Aston Villa, if I look at Aston Villa's, they've won the last 5 games really. So what's it called? So they beat Bologna 1-0, beat Fulham 3-1, Feyenoord 2-0, Burnley 2-1, and Spurs 2-1. So again, for instance, they're playing well at the moment. So for instance, Aston Villa at the moment. So, but they go away to the Netherlands tonight, etc. For instance, they're playing it. So it's not much too much of a difficult, track back, etc. But still, they're playing today, for instance, and you never know, they might pick up injuries, but who knows? But they're getting going to run a farm. Do I feel confident with Man City can get a job, get something out of Aston Villa? Yeah, I do. I really do. Let me just read this. This was funny. This is honestly, and this relates to our foes across the way. For instance, over in Salford. Trafford, or whatever you want to call it, not Manchester. Anyway, so it appears that United, right, their friend, their what's it called, class of '92. We'll be ever sure about this class of '92. Let me just read this. It's funny. Manchester City footprint on the modern day running of Manchester United so to receive intense criticism from figures of Old Trafford's club's past. In frank, a revealing conversation between 2 members of the famed class of '92 have voiced their frustration as to see what the club's growing dependency on Manchester's blueprint for success. Their comments come amidst a growing sense of identity loss among United fans, with the club's footballing executives increasingly influenced by those who built their careers across the city. United new leadership under Sir Jim ownership has been placed a major emphasis on reconstructing the club from the top to the bottom. Okay, recruiting figures and with proven experience from elite football. So where did you get them from? From the Etihad, from Manchester City. The appointment of chief executive Omar Barada and football director Jason Wilco, who both formerly of Manchester City, seem to be controversial among former players, while seen by many as the sign of provincialism and ambition. Some believe it represents a deep identity crisis. So United are losing their identity because they're becoming a Manchester City, according to these idiots. Speaking out on a wider conversation with the Times, Paul Hurst, both Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes have hit out at Manchester United and City's factions of their football club in recent years. Both senior board hirings of the Etihad connecting officials. You've got directors from Jason Wilcock and Omar Barada, as you would previously work at City. I don't think Manchester United should do that, insisted Scholes. City have been good for the past 10 years, so we hope that they have to bring a bit of that over here. But it's not gone down well then. You talk about DNA, United DNA. There's nobody out there who knows about what Man United, what United person is. Under 18s coach Darren Fletcher is the only one who knows anything about what is likely to be a Man United player. And look, you don't have to be the best players, but you just have to have the balls to be able to play for the club that you do. This is funny. If you have a DNA that is solid, you go through and handpicked really good coaches. United did did that with Kieran McKenna. You see a shining light at Tottenham and bring him in and teaches you things about but right now there is no one from United's history except Darren Fletcher. It's just I can't. It just goes on. Honestly, you know, the remarkably will likely reignite the debate of United's long-term future football identity under Sir Jim, particularly as the club to close the competitive gap on Manchester City and submit in the vote. Well, honestly, it is just ridiculous. It really is. The bitterness shown by these players, these former players. And to say that, for instance, because of these, when if you've got a successful company and you for instance, you bring people in from that successful company to show, because again, for the United are still, these players, like a lot of United fans, whatever, are living in the past. They don't realise that things have moved on. Manchester City, for instance, also had to recreate its identity, which probably might have actually, I wouldn't say stole, but probably had players or, for instance, ideas, for instance, or not players, what's it called, ideas from other clubs, but probably United. Who knows? To form who we are today, and to form this, put together the club, and bringing in players and in this embodiment. I think we bought it. I think bought it from Barcelona. The Manchester City, Pep Guardiola bought it. Brought in from Barcelona, for instance, and how they played the model from Barcelona to Manchester City, and you could say that. But and then we've got our own identity out of that. The mere fact that, for instance, the idea of what United is right now is so strung out and lost out in the past, and because that's what United are at the moment. They are the past. They're not the future. They're just the past. And the mere fact that these guys are kind of living in the past are jealous or don't want the Manchester City's involvement, or they don't want to be Manchester City. You're not going to be Manchester City. You're always going to be United. But the mere fact that, for instance, you've got to realise where you are and what United are at the moment, because United are just not United anymore. For instance, as far as I'm concerned, that they're then gone dead in the water. Unfortunately, again, it's come down to what I've been saying for a long time. It's the mainstream media, southern-based biased media. When you're listening to it, and we're talking about, we're the famous Man United, we're the big Man United, we're the biggest club in the world. And it's old news. The day Manchester City turn around and say we're too good enough to go down, that is when we realise, etc. That's when you realise, etc. We did go down, because I remember when I'm in the 70s, etc. When we did go down, and for instance, and it was always Man City will never go down. We're too good to go down, and we did go down, and we said, we'll be back, and we went down again. So for instance, not to you realise, it's like you need to, like an alcoholic or a drug addict, etc. You need to get down to rock bottom. You need to realise before you heal. You need to come to where you are before you can heal. And the problem is with United, they will never do that because they flat refuse to admit the fact that they ain't who they are. They maybe think that it's important to them. They're the Man United, the biggest club in the world, but it's past. It's 10 years plus, and it's still, for instance, and even though they might have beat Liverpool on a one-off game, they certainly I think they're still going to get dumped on their arse against Brighton, but they'll always be back. But this is the problem with United fans and the United and themselves, because they're never going to ever go into come to the consequences and see who they are. Because again, while you've still got mainstream southern-based biased media, the likes of Crooked, the likes of Goldstein, the likes of whatever, and the likes of are still going bigging them up, when you've got these fans or the Gary Neville and whatever going on and saying, oh, United, even though they will criticise United, and you always feel that, for instance, they're still waffling about United and how amazing they are, or how they are, they are the biggest club in the world, and they're going to be and they're still not in reality, facing reality. And the mere fact that these guys are moaning because of Manchester City, for instance, Manchester City, or they've taken Omar Barada and Wilcox from City, and they're worried the fact that United have lost their identity. United don't have an identity in 2025. They don't. Their identity of failure. That's what they have, an identity of failure, which and not person facing reality. United fans haven't got to a point. They may say they have, but they certainly don't. Because again, when they got Matt Amorim in, and when they got we got Amorim in, Man City wanted him, and Man City was whatever. Or when they got, for instance, every time they achieve something, etc., something small, and they feel like Man City needed him, or these are that, and it's just like what I was saying to you before in the beginning of the video. The fans are just kind of like feeling off scraps of not facing and up to the understanding of what's happening at the moment with them, and so I hope you understand what I mean, but we'll leave it there. One day, I don't think he will. It's been taken over 10 years or so. They won't wake up. But as long as they're doing it, it's just hilariously to think they're still living in the past. And that's what United are, still living in this biggest club in the world crap. And while they've still got the mainstream media kissing, whatever, with it, and like some Crookie on Talk Sport, for instance, and talking about how they're back because they beat Liverpool one game. Jesus. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna love you and leave you. Like and subscribe. Tell me what you're thinking. Are United fans still living in the past? In the model of what Manchester City is now, when you have a successful business and you bring in people from that successful business, that's only going to help your business. So mere fact that you think you're going to turn into Manchester City 2.0 is just hilarious. So no, but anyway, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. True Blue Tie from Thailand. Like and subscribe. Tell me what you think. And United fans, like most fans, living in the past. Manchester City, the future, and we're going up, up, up. Sorry, Cat from Thailand.